ternary ionic compounds. Ternary means 3. So these are going to have more than one element in them, but they still only have 2 ions. Okay? So 2 ions. The names and the formulas are going to follow the same patterns, but now one of the ions is polyatomic, or possibly both. So let's name these guys. This is where students sometimes get a little too creative. There is room for some creativity in chemistry, but not in nomenclature. Chemistry, nomenclature is not a place to be creative. So when we look at this, BaCrO4, that first element is a metal. Turns out in this situation, the second element is a metal also. But most of the time, probably 99% of the time, the first element is the first ion. So I'm going to look at that formula and I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to cut it in only 2 pieces. So I've got Ba as one ion and CrO4 as the other. Sometimes students want to chop this all up and have barium and chromium and oxide. You can't do that. So the CrO4 stays together. That is a polyatomic ion. That's on that list. Its name is chromate. And the charge on chromate is 2-. Barium is in group 2A on the periodic table, and so we know that its charge is 2+. Take the formula apart, write the ions with their charges, then name the ions. Name the first ion, name the second ion. What's the name of the first ion? Barium. He doesn't need a Roman numeral. And the second ion is chromate. So this is barium chromate. Yeah, that's okay. It is similar to permanganate, right? Permanganate is MnO4. And you look at that table and there's no lines. There's no horizontal lines. It's very easy to move your eye as you go across. And I do make mistakes. It's really fun. Students have a lot of fun catching me making stupid mistakes. I'm human. Okay, this one. CuNO2. The first element is a metal. That's going to be the first ion. So we've got Cu. I always want to say see you later. And we've got NO2. The parentheses and the number outside are just telling me how many of them. That's not part of the ions formula, right? The ion formula is just the NO2. And we need to put charges on this. Copper, we can't predict the charge from the periodic table. Then we really need the charge on this one. Anybody remember what it is? It's -1. We're going to figure out from this one what the charge on the copper is. We have 2 of these ions. That's a total of it's a total of -2, right? And so there must be +2 here to balance that. We need the charge here because copper needs a Roman numeral. It's not predictable from the periodic table. Groups 1A, 2A, 3A, zinc, silver, cadmium. And chant that a few times. If it's not one of those, it needs a Roman numeral. This needs a Roman numeral. We figured out the charge, copper 2. And what's the name of the NO2- ion? Nitrite. That's the light version. Oops, I almost wrote nitrate. It's the light version of nitrate. 1 less oxygen. Now, if you spelled chromium wrong, maybe you left the H out, would that be a huge deal? No. If you spell nitrate wrong, if you put A here instead of I, or you put a D instead of a T, that is the correctly spelled name of a different ion, and so then it is wrong, okay? And misspelling something like that could kill somebody, right? If you're a doctor or a nurse administering a medication and you give the wrong thing, you could kill somebody. So sometimes spelling's really important. Thankfully, no one has ever died of misspelled words in my chemistry class, but we're going to practice anyway. How about this one? HgOH2. The first element is the first ion. Everything else is the second ion. So we've got Hg. The parentheses and the 2 just tell us the number of them. We want to write down what's inside the parentheses, OH. What's the charge on OH ion? It's -1. You have to memorize that. There's always a few students that somehow just don't believe that. No, really, you gotta memorize it. Guessing doesn't work so good with those. What's the charge on this one then? 2+. I have 2 of these guys. The formula tells me that. And I have 1 of those. So these would add up to +2, so this, I'm sorry, -2, I don't know why I do that. And this one must be +2. Let's get those out of the way. What's the name of this guy? It's close to silver. It's mercury. So this is mercury. Does it need a Roman numeral? Yeah, it's not group 1A, 2A, 3A, zinc, silver, cadmium. So mercury, 2. And what's the name of this? Hydroxide. Hydroxide is a really common ion. We see that a lot. Mercury 2 hydroxide. If you have questions, just interrupt me. Okay, let's look at this guy. NaH2PO4. That's a lot of letters and numbers. The first element is a metal. That's going to be an ion all by itself. We're not dealing with polyatomic metal cations in this class. Do they exist? Yeah, but we're not going to learn about them, so we don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to draw a line after the sodium. I can only break this into 2 pieces. I can take a scissors and I can cut once. So I'm going to have sodium. This one we know the charge from the periodic table, sodium, and then everything else stays together. Don't take it apart. Now, there are little, I guess you could call them hacks, little tricks you can do if you're shaky on your charges of polyatomic ions. On this one, you can find the charge of sodium on the periodic table, and so if you've forgotten the charge on this guy, you could figure it out. But you should memorize it. It's -1. So the first one is sodium, and that doesn't need a Roman numeral. It's in group 1A. What's the name of this guy? It's one of those kind of weird ones. Well, if I cover up the H's, what's the name of PO4 with a charge? Phosphate. This has 2 hydrogens. Dihydrogen phosphate. If it was HPO4, it would just be hydrogen phosphate. There's 2 of them, so it's dihydrogen phosphate. So this is one of a few compounds that actually has 3 names. So it's like, you know, John Smith I was talking about earlier. His wife's name is Mary Ann. So she goes by Mary Ann Smith. Some people do that. Some compounds have a middle name. Any questions? Write formulas for the following compounds. So here's names. We're supposed to write formulas. Iron 3 sulfate. So there's two words here. We have two ions, so we need the formulas. Iron 3, the symbol for iron is Fe, not Ir. Ir is on the periodic table, but that's iridium. What's the charge on this ion? 3 plus. The Roman numerals tell us that. What's the formula for sulfate ion? SO4, 2 minus. So then we look at the charges, and the charges tell us how many of each are in the formula. So this is +3 and -2. Most students would prefer to do the crisscross thing there. And you're going to have Fe2. You're going to have more than one sulfate, so you're going to have to put it in parentheses, SO4, and then 3 on the outside. That's the formula for iron 3 sulfate. About sodium hypochlorite. That's the active ingredient in chlorine bleach. You might have some in your laundry room. What's the formula for sodium ion? Na plus. Hypochlorite. Well, maybe you memorized chlorate. That's chlorate. Chlorite would be O2. Hypochlorite is O1. So this is ClO with a negative charge. Then we look at the charges. +1, -1. If we just push them together, the charges add up to 0. And so this is NaClO. The next one, manganese hydrogen carbonate. Here's one with 3 words in its name. When there's 3 words, the middle word goes with the anion. So manganese, not to be confused with magnesium, or that fictional creative element manganesium, one of my favorite student errors. Manganese is Mn. 2 plus, we get that from the Roman numeral. Hydrogen carbonate. Well, what's the formula for carbonate? CO3, 2 minus. Hydrogen carbonate has a hydrogen ion added to that. Hydrogen ion has what charge? +1, because it's in group 1A. So if I put an H plus with a CO3 2 minus and combine that into one package, I get HCO3, and now the charge is just a -1. So when I put these two ions together, I'm going to end up with Mn HCO3 2. Yes?
Under what terms would hydrogen go into its negative state?
Hydrogen can form a negative ion. If you had something like NaH, metals are always positive. The other nonmetals, other than hydrogen, who violates lots of rules, are always negative, but hydrogen breaks rules. And so in this case, the sodium would be +1, and the hydrogen would be -1, which is what we more expect of a nonmetal, and you would name that sodium hydride. You're not going to see it very much, but it definitely does exist.
So when it's basically attached to the metal, that's when it's called.
Yeah, if it's with a metal, it has a negative charge. But most of the time it acts, it is a nonmetal, but it likes to act like a metal. Just like little girls who have big brothers sometimes act like they're boys even though they're not. They usually grow out of that. Silver nitrate. What's the symbol for silver? Ag. What's the charge on silver? +1. That's in that triangle. Aluminum, zinc, silver. I think of it as going downstairs. Aluminum's 3+, zinc is 2+, silver is 1+. Nitrate. NO3 with a -1 charge. And so if I put those two together, I've got +1, -1, I just shove them together. Hey guys, get together now. AgNO3. Any questions? Yes, I just have this very strange way of looking at elements. I personify everything.